Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Diana Rickert, Vice President of Communications for the Illinois Policy Institute. And Diana, we saw this past week Cecile Richards, the president of Planned Parenthood, before a congressional committee talking about why Planned Parenthood still deserves the $500 million they get of federal taxpayer funding. At the local level, this is an issue, too. You've had a number of states launch investigations into how Planned Parenthood operates, the affiliates operate in their states, in addition to those congressional committees that are doing their own inquiries. And Jeanne Ives, state rep from Wheaton, has been one that has suggested that we look into how Planned Parenthood operates in Illinois. And she had an op-ed in the Tribune. There's a very personal in nature this past week.
This is probably one of the most powerful pieces that I've read in the Tribune in a while. And I encourage everybody to go back and read it. It was at chicagotribune.com if you can. So a few weeks ago, there was a woman who wrote an op-ed that said why she aborted her baby after 20 weeks. And this is on the heels of all this national debate about, should Planned Parenthood get our tax money? And Jeanne came back with this piece that I got to be honest, it put tears in my eyes. As a new mom, it put tears in my eyes to read this piece about her very, very personal story on why she carried her baby full term. And I know this is, everyone will say you'll never know what the mother's situation is. You'll never know how they feel. But I think that she debunked all of that in her piece. So if Jeanne, we're so glad to have you on the line. Tell us why you were inspired to write this piece.
Well, thank you for having me. Look, I was inspired because the previous writer's comments, the Rebecca Cohen op-ed that got published apparently in the Washington Post and reposted in the Chicago Tribune, and I thought, you know what, there is another side to this story. So that's why I wrote it.
As a mom, Jeanne, does your stomach churn when you saw that piece by Cohen, when you see these videos or you watch all of the coverage on the national news and you see somebody trying to defend spending our tax money on this?
It certainly does, because I think that you're looking for convenience. You're not treating it as a human life, and that's very disturbing to me. And I mean, the whole Planned Parenthood is a completely diabolical issue to me. I can't understand why any taxpayer money should go to something like that. It's very risky to do this, to do abortions to begin with, especially in the manner that they've been doing them. And you're just so callously treating those women that find themselves in a circumstance for which there are other alternatives. And I find that just incredible that this is what their solution is. Their solution is to just treat it as an inconvenience.
Jeanne, you're mother of 5, correct?
Yes.
And the child that didn't survive, Mark Anthony Ives, in the piece that you wrote for the Tribune, you write, I understood more acutely than ever before the inescapable truth that suffering is a part of life and it doesn't discriminate. I thought that was a powerful statement because everything is about, even in our culture, and thus our culture drives the politics and the lawmaking process, is about the therapeutic life. If it's painful, if it's difficult, then we should find a way to eradicate it, and that even extends to human life. And it seems to me that's one of the big takeaways from your piece and the decision you made to carry a child to term who you knew had very little chance of survival.
It was by far the hardest moment in my life that I've ever been through. I mean, it surpasses anything I went through at West Point, anything I went through in the military, any other challenge that I've had. It is, but you know what? I never said, well, why me? Why is this happening to me? I actually took the opposite approach. Like, why am I so special that nothing bad should happen to me? No, that's not true. We all have things that we have to deal with in our life, and I've not lived a charmed life by any circumstance. Why am I so special that this shouldn't happen to me? I never ever thought that way. I felt like people have gone through so much worse suffering than this, and this is part of a plan. I don't know completely. I don't know God's plan completely. None of us do. But it's also just part of nature. This is what happens. And it's how you respond to that that is more telling about, I think, who you are and who we are as a society when we respond to caring for those people in those circumstances. And I had just incredible care, except for I felt like the high-risk doctors kind of just treated it as a medical issue rather than a human issue. But fortunately, my doctor didn't.
Jeanne, what kind of reaction are you getting from people from your op-ed?
Just an incredibly positive reaction. Of course, I don't read comments on Trib articles, especially as they relate to me, because I've learned not to. But there's been a lot of comments, and then there were some letters to the editor in the paper today as well. And so apparently, I mean, I just felt the reason I wrote this is that somebody had to tell the other side. And you can't just let that one person's op-ed stand alone.
And how, from a policy perspective, how does what we have found out about Planned Parenthood at the national level relate to what we could do with respect to Planned Parenthood, or should do, in your opinion, at the state level?
Well, I did file a resolution calling for 4 different agencies to investigate because Planned Parenthood has had a number of problems in the state of Illinois, and they have not been even inspected since 1999. No Planned Parenthood facility has. And so why would you put women's health at risk when you know that they're not inspected and that they've been doing procedures where they have not gotten complete informed consent? All I want is an investigation. Additionally, there are a number of other agencies that can provide the same services that Planned Parenthood is doing in terms of women's health that do not also sell baby body parts. And I think we also need to look at the researchers. Who is benefiting from the buying and selling of these parts? We need to look at them as well and find out if they're actually doing things in accordance with the law. To me, it's clear that they have violated the law. And why we are not investigating is beyond me. She
is State Representative Jeanne Ives, Republican from Wheaton. The op-ed that we were discussing in the Chicago Tribune this past week, Why We Let Our Babies' Death Come Naturally. Check it out. Jeanne, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.